question for you, and try to be unbiased. I'm sure it's going to be hard for you to be unbiased. I know you did close to 20 years in the police force, and thank you for your service, by the way. I have an opinion, a strong opinion on this, but more curious about yours. Who would you say has a stronger bond with each other, police officers or firefighters?
Firefighters, 100%.
Oh, you agree with me then? Wow. I didn't expect that. I expected you to be very biased. Yeah, those guys have a strong bond, don't they?
One of the biggest letdowns when I got into law enforcement, I felt it was going to be, it's like a real true brotherhood. Do you know what I mean? But the amount of infighting, and there's more infighting, backstabbing, screwing each other over in law enforcement, and there's no solidarity. You know what I'm saying? There's
Yeah,
no solidarity. There's guys that do some crazy stuff. You're like, what are you
yeah,
doing?
yeah.
And law and firefighters, from what the ones that I know have a bond.
I,
And
I,
maybe because their lives truly depend on that teamwork, even though it's still applicable in law enforcement, but like, you know, it takes more than one guy to put out a fire. It takes more than one guy to save someone's life. And they always respond as teams to everything. And then again, and I often joke around, I should have signed on the other form because those guys work 24 hours and they have 48 hours off. So they
yeah.
have a lot of time, personal time to spend with the family.
And they have
So
a lot of personal time to work time to spend with each other, right? I mean, they
yes,
sleep in the same place. They cook. I remember back in the day, Carlos, where my best clients were firefighters. When I had the produce stores, they would come in because they love to cook. They would come in and they would have this amazing budget, and they would come in and buy the best organic produce. Back in the day when organic was totally unaffordable to most people, firefighters were eating organic produce.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're and they cook there. It's because they have what's synonymous to familial unit, right? Because like you said, they cook together, they
Oh,
work
they're
out
a tribe.
together.
I mean, they really are a tribe.
Yes, yes, and they have a guy,
Is
whoever
that a
is.
good word, tribe?
I
Tribe.
like it. I
Right.
like it. I like it.
I'm still stuck on that word that you said a little while ago.
Which one?
Oh man, it was a tough tongue twister. I can't even recall it because it was a challenge, but you pulled it off nicely. On solidarity or something like that. It was a hard word.
Sensibilization.
And
Is that the
solicitation. Thank you. That
is that
word.
is that the right word?
I don't know,
Are they sensilize? I'm jacking it up. I'm having like a brain fart here.
but when you said it, it sounded awesome.
I like it. Let's go with it,
All
and
right,
let's hope no more fact checks us, and we'll run with it, buddy.
let's go with that. Let's go with some real estate.
Let's do it.
All right, man. You have anything
So,
pressing up the top of your head? I'd love to hear what you have going. I have a couple ideas.
as far as
Real estate.
I will tell you, we're seeing a exponential uptick in activity in the market. I don't know if you're, and hopefully you'll let me know what it looks like over there in Napa. But here in Miami, all of our listings are getting just a phenomenal amount of showings right now. There's a lot of really motivated buyers in the marketplace, and I'm sure that's a piggyback off the lowering of the interest rates recently, and it's just really really exciting to see all this buyer interest in the marketplace now. And remember, usually during the holidays there's going to be some very everything dwindles down, a little bit. Everything slows down, and then now it just picks up, and yeah, so it's very motivating. The supply down here, and I'm sure nationwide is the same thing. It's still tight. We're far from a balanced market, and but I think that's going to help weed out those strong buyers from those buyers that are not strong, and then it's going to give sellers really good opportunities to get all their equity and get really good prices, and the buyer's going to get a good because they're competing. So I think it's good for the market. It's I like it. It's exciting. How about you? What's happening over there in Napa?
I think it's the same thing. Super tight inventory. A few of my agents, my wife included, has a listing coming up, and she's got an open house that she's putting together for this particular property. But because we're super duper creative, we are actually inviting all the neighbors to a neighbors only open house. And part of the reason why we do that is neighbors a lot of times know who they want to have live close to them, so they'll start making the phone calls for you. And this is just one of the things that we do for creative marketing to drive traffic. But then what'll blow your mind in this particular open house, we're going to do what I like to call a chicken paella, because I don't want to do a seafood paella, but we will do a sopal de pollo, which is,
Oh my God.
and I've made that for you. So
Mind blowing. Mind
yeah,
blowing.
so
Seriously.
we make the asopal de pollo, but what we also do, we have technology where we can call all the neighbors, Carlos. We can literally call every neighbor's house and literally personally invite each and every one of them without their phone ever ringing. It'll literally be in their voicemail. So they'll literally get a call saying, Bob, Mary, we're going to be at an open house down the street. It'll be neighbors only between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. And by the way, we're going to be hosting it with live music. We have two acoustic instruments sitting at the property. So here's the trick with that. I learned early on that when buyers walk into an open house, they want to be able to talk with each other without being overheard. They don't want to be overheard by the hosting agent.
Yep.
They want to be left alone. And when we brought in the acoustics, that gave them the opportunity to relax and they gave them the opportunity to talk. Also gave them the ability to stay much longer, to build rapport with us, but to also get in touch with the property. And then when we bust out the chicken asopado de pollo, which is sort of a chicken paella made by yours truly, game over. They can see themselves in the house. So Susan's looking forward to doing one of those this coming week. She's got 4 new listings coming up. Going to be super busy here in the Napa Valley, kicking off 2024. So I'm super excited about that. I'm also seeing, like you, that the buyers are starting to line up and they're coming out strong right out of the gate. So I think
Yep.
people understand that it's time to get into something and stop paying rent and start writing off that interest rather than pay into something that you can't write off. So,
Yep. Yep.
and I have a couple of examples of things of reasons why real estate is a worthwhile asset, um, depending on who you are and where you are in life and what your threshold is for leaning in and working towards things. But before I go into those examples, I just wanted to see if you had anything else to say about your market or anything, because I thought that was a great kickoff. No,
Yeah.
no pun intended. I was
No pun
trying. I'm
intended. Full pun.
trying. There we
Bro,
go.
I like it. I like it. All right. Thanks for passing it to me, Jerry.
Whoa.
I think it's great. I think that you and I were talking. It's funny because last week, if you recall, I'm saying last week, it was probably like a couple of days ago. You and I always get, we started getting on a FaceTime first and kind of like prime the show. We don't really practice. We don't rehearse. In other words, we don't have a script and say, okay, you're going to say this and then I'm going to say that. We just kind of get a feel for what it's going to sound like topic wise, and then we just run with it, right? And sometimes we go into other different directions, but I think it makes it more authentic, right? It makes our flow more natural, which is
And
what we
there could be fumbles.
there are fumbles. There are fumbles. I think I just fumbled too, but that's good. But
Um,
listen,
um,
let's pretend it's an onside kick, right? So we have a good opportunity here. Hey, listen, it's funny you mentioned those add value things because you and I were talking on a FaceTime, and we like for to give some context to whoever's listening that we like to keep connected. So throughout the week, we'll text often, and we'll try to jump on FaceTime as often because that's the next best thing. Because if we lived in the same town, we'd be seeing each other in person. So that's our way to keep our connection more realistic versus than just a phone call or that kind of thing. So I think it helps towards our synergy also. But I think we were talking about add value, and I won't go into what you charge for listings or what we charge for listings, but we said a couple of very poignant things, and I think we're aligned on that fact that the marketplace and individuals, realtors, let's say, when they get into the marketplace and their biggest competition edge is a lesser price for a lesser listing, the consumer is going to get a lesser product and the consumer is going to get less value. So, and it's okay, right? It's okay if someone's really worried about commission. If that's their thing, you and I said something pretty bold. You and I will probably not be working with that listing, and we would tell them, hey, listen, maybe we're not aligned right now because this is the way that we work. And I think that we both give such an exponential amount of add value that if you would put a number on that, you wouldn't be able to afford it, right? We'd price ourselves out of the market, but we give so much value. And then that example you gave, and you guys, this isn't something new. You guys have always had very creative open house strategies. I know you've had live music in open houses before, and then that's great. And I think it gives. And we've had a strategy similar, not open houses, because to be quite frank, I've never been a very big proponent of open houses. I'm open to it now, but I've never been a big proponent because at least in my market, the only effectiveness that open houses have, at least in my market, is that it's a tool for the listing agent to acquire buyer leads. And in a good open house, I'm sure that's a good byproduct, but here that's the sole focus.
Mm.
And so that's what my biggest challenge is, to do something, you do it well, like you're doing it, with some intention behind it and some value behind it. But not just, hey, listen, we're gonna do an open house, a couple of balloons, a couple of pastelitos on some pastries on the table, and then they love it because they get all those buyer leads on there. So the people that will drive by, that just get on Zillow and, hey, what are the nearest open houses to me? And they use it as a tool to propel themselves, but they're not giving that value back to the consumer. So you and I were discussing this, and that our goal is always to give so much more value that we're not competing. So we don't talk about price. We This is what we charge for a listing, and this is where you need to focus on the value. And if they don't see the value, at least in our view, and I want to speak for you, but we were talking something along these lines. It may not be a good alignment, a client brokerage alignment, because then you're both with two different mindsets on two different paths, and with two separate levels of expectation that may not work out, right? But that's huge. I mean, reaching out with technology, and we do that as well. So for our listings, we'll target the building. We'll send direct flyers. We'll go knock on doors whenever the agent is listing the property. Before we even list, hey, how are you? Marty will go, hey, we're here listing this property. If you ever have any questions, if you see anything suspicious there, this is my phone number. Let me know. If you know someone wants to come and live, select your neighbors is a great approach, because it's very empowering. In my neighborhood, if someone would send me something saying you have a great opportunity to select your neighbor, I'd be like, that's great. Let me put it on my Facebook. Hey guys, there's a home for sale in my so it works out well. And I think that's the valley where we're going now, with all the talk about commissions, with the legislation now that happened, that the NAR is going to be appealing. Everything is about commission, price. But no one is talking about value, and everyone is doing the exact same thing. Like I was telling you about that billboard near my house where you're driving, and then someone's like, we'll sell your house for 3.5%. And if there's no agent, we'll sell it for one. And for $1.99, we'll give you three apples. I mean, it's like, that's not, I mean, we're not going to compete with that, because we need that budget. And you said something that was very poignant during a conversation last week that maybe you want to expand upon, that we need part of that listing fee that we're going to get paid if it sells, right? Because we're in the only profession that if something doesn't sell, we don't get paid. We invest money in marketing and photography and a lot of different things. So you need a budget for that. And it's not realistic to think someone's going to sell your home for 2% and that they're going to budget any money towards that. And you said something else that was very poignant that we've talked about very often in our last conversation, where they're doing a split with their broker. So how much money is left on the table? So if those individuals that are really off the top, and this is an old real estate adage, and we've talked about this as well, that if they're willing to discount their commission as a competitive edge, then what are they willing to do to your price when they're negotiating your price? How much intensity and fervor they're going to put to preserve your money if they're not preserving their own? So I don't know. I said a lot there. So if you want to hit a couple of those points that we discussed.
You want to pass it to me?
Hang on. I think I'm going to kick it off to you. I'm punting it.
I
It's
got it.
it's fourth down, and first down is too far for us to make it. So I'm going to punt it over to you.
Oh man, I
And
was open. I'm ready. I was
so,
totally.
ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome for the playoffs theme that we did here, and that was totally off the cuff. You're welcome.
I'm gonna run for a home run. I'm gonna.
Whoa,
Oh,
whoa, baseball. What?
there it goes. There comes the Cuban slash Puerto Rican. That's what really matters to us. Anyway, sorry. Anyways, so no, man, I totally agree. I really think it's important for the consumer to make their own decision. You're 100% right. There are people that are commission sensitive and they just feel like they win if they're paying 1 to 3% for the commission. Then they feel like they win. They'll never know what could have happened because that's what they get. A lot of times when you're hiring somebody that's a 1% or even a 3.5% or a 4%, it's really hard to come out with a budget where you can actually do videography, drone videography, professional photography, and then a reasonable budget for online marketing, which is how you get your property out there to the rest of the world. And if you're a good marketeer, you do have a budget assigned towards that. And there are the economies of scale. It should cost me a lot less than it costs the consumer to get a property out on the market. So it's really important for the consumer to know where their agent is coming from. I think it's also important for a consumer to be able to get a clear picture as to what the bottom line is going to end up being. What is your true bottom line? Because I'll tell you, most of the listings that we go on end up working with us. I would easily say over 90% of the appointments that we go on end up working with us, but there are 10% that don't. And what I typically see with that 10% is that a lot of times they're grossly overpriced. They sit on the market for a very long time and they end up settling for much lower than 10, 15, sometimes even 20% less than their ask price. So that's 15 to 20% lower than your listing price. If a commission is somewhere between 5 and 6%, and you are not willing to pay that, I think you're going to easily realize that you lost a lot more money. Here's the other thing. If you're not willing to give your property an opportunity to compete in the open market with a good marketing strategy to possibly generate multiple offers, and handled by somebody that knows how to handle a multiple offer situation and leverage, not just leverage the offers, leverage language. There's so much that goes into a word and how we hear the words that are coming out of the other agent's mouth. If we really listen to the words that are coming out of a buyer's agent's mouth, there is gold in those words. And that gold happens to go to my seller because that's who I am working for. That's who I'm being paid by. So I want the sellers to really consider that when they're looking at discount brokerages or paying less. Paying less is not necessarily, and I'll tell you, 9 out of 10 times, that's usually not the way to go. Best results are when homes are put on the market by agents that know how to negotiate, how to market properties properly, and then take the situation from there. Also, where sellers can do really well is if they get aligned with an agent that also understands how to negotiate that way on the buyer side. Because sometimes I tell sellers, if they're selling to buy something else, be mindful that if it's in two different areas, that you have two agents that know how to work well together, that can serve you really well. If the agent in your selling in your listing market, if your agent knows how to get you top dollar for that property, and then he kicks off to the other agent receives that kickoff and grabs it and starts running, that other agent on the buy side can literally run in for a touchdown. And here's how. Because if that agent understands how to build rapport with a listing agent, how do you build rapport with a listing agent to better suit and better assist your buyer? How do you have conversations with that listing agent that you know how to hear for those words that are coming out of that listing agent's mouth that are going to benefit your client now who's a buyer on that side of the transaction? So there's a lot of complexities that go into this. If you align yourself with somebody that understands how to navigate that, you can end up doing really, really well.
That's 100% on point. And again, it's great that we can compare the dichotomy of both of our respective markets, right? And it's always so interesting to me. It's like, hey, so what's happening over there and compared to here? But we have a lot of different variables here, and we've talked about this, and I talk about this often, and it's really a pain point for me in this industry, is that there's such a low barrier to entry to become a realtor, that's literally everyone's failsafe. You know, everyone in Miami, at least, there's a high density of all the realtors in the state of Florida.
Carlos, you like to beat up on the other agents. Leave the other agents alone.
No,
They're
I
nice
have
people.
no, they're great people, but I'm not saying they're bad intentioned, but there's a difference between what you just said, right? There's someone that doesn't have the knowledge, expertise, and practicality to help you navigate the space versus
Yeah.
someone that's like, hey, let me get my license. I have it done in about 30 days, and let me go to my uncle that loves me and trusts me and lists his home, right? There's a big difference with what's going to happen. So in the marketplace down here, and this is a practice, and that they've always refused, and I've turned down so much business when we used to have the larger team, before I started, just honing down on the meats and potatoes of what's important, and we had a much larger team in the daily meetings, and they're like my agents were telling me, "Hey, listen, we're losing out on a lot of listings. We can just agree with the price and get the listing. Later we change it." And I'm like, "That's what everyone's doing." I'm like, "Yeah, but then I got a problem with it. I can't sleep like that. You know what I mean? I can't go into a transaction the way I like to someone because the practice down here is this." Jerry, let's role play real quick. Okay, Mr. Seller, what do you think your house is worth?
1.2.
1.2. Okay, let's say on the side note that the actual fair market value of that home is, let's say, 875, right? Then the practice down here is that's great. I'm glad you said that because I think it's worth 1.5. And right now, with the activity in the market, I think we'll get it sold at that price point. Are you serious? Absolutely. They list it, so now you're locked into a listing agreement that you cannot cancel unless there's a cancellation fee, and most of them have it. We have it. We have a cancellation fee. Have it. So you're locked in there. So here's the practice. Time goes on. and automatic, you have another conversation with the listing agent. Hey, unfortunately, the market's turned a little bit, it's changed slightly. There's been more homes on the market. The prices are going down, so we're gonna have to lower the price point. Oh, okay. So then you go on that journey, and maybe you won't lower it that much, a little bit, but what's gonna happen is you're gonna get showings, you're gonna get offers based on that price that's really not really reflective of the marketplace. So you're gonna get offers, and the sellers is hanging on to what you've told them. Oh no, we can get 1.5, so now we lowered it to 1.4, and the house is really worth 875. And then they're going to say, no, reject that offer. Okay, then comes another offer, reject it. But they're going to get so many offers, they're going to end up selling, if not at 875, below 875, because they're going to be tired of doing that. And I'll give you an actual real world example. We have these customers, they were selling their high end home in Key Biscayne, and they're also buying. Their family's growing, so they're looking for more picket fence, big properties, that sort of thing. And so we found this amazing home. And let me tell you, Jerry, for a home, the seller gave so much love to that home and thought of everything that even the seller, when we did the inspection, when the inspector went in the subflooring on the ground between the home, he says there was lighting set up down there. It was clean. I'm like, it was just a beautiful old home that he rehabbed and just did a crazy beautiful job. Well, we calculated that home was worth all day long maybe 875, right? Let's say 875, 900, in that range. They were asking some crazy price. So we're talking to the realtor, and the realtors know what it's worth, right? And we have this conversation back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay, yeah, we're good. I think that will go, but we submit the offer, and it was a super strong offer. Okay, so it's one of those offers, and I tell our buyers, listen, we help you formulate those offers as if we were the listing agent, and we assist you to formulate it that it will be tantalizing to the list to for us to accept it if we were the listing agent. So we go under contract, and the inspection comes, and and then we had an issue during the inspection period, and it got canceled. We had to cancel, right? Because something else come up, and I'm not going to say anything negative because it'll be easy to identify the transaction. But something on the realtor side, on the listing agent side, came up that was very unfavorable, and then we had to cancel that. But if the individual that you're representing, if you start with the truth, with the transparency, and like you said, let them make an educated decision, then the marketplace would be so much better off for it because everyone's working from a place of truth, not some pie in the sky price, and your client. And so let me fast forward to the punchline. The punchline is the house sold for 875 like last week or the week before. Marty was looking at it. She goes, look at this. I'm like, yep, the same thing that we offered. You know what I mean?
And
And
what I find interesting that a house like that, I've heard that story a million times. I've seen it a
yep,
lot.
yep,
That same house, if would have hit the market at 795, it might have gotten 925 with 10 offers. It just
yep,
it's a
yep.
different animal altogether because the amount of interest that a property like that would get would blow the seller's mind. But what I will tell you is not all, I'm not going to say not a lot. I bet you 70, 60, 70% of our sellers have the threshold to do that. They don't all have the threshold to do that. When I'm presenting that, I'm also asking them, some of this is, I actually use this term, abdominal fortitude. So I go into, depending on your abdominal fortitude, how much you can stand in your gut
Yeah,
to be able to stand putting your property not at market value, but slightly below. If you can stand it, can yield amazing results. What I also tell, I don't know what the laws are like in Florida, but over here, the law states that an agent does not get paid until the transaction closes. So I always tell my sellers, you don't ever have anything to lose. If your house doesn't sell, if you don't get the price you want, we're out. So you're not gonna lose anything. We're not gonna get paid. There are agents in California that are still telling their clients that if they bring them a full price offer with no contingencies, they're owed a commission. Unless the laws have changed or unless somebody tells me something entirely different, that's not true. We don't get paid until the transaction closes and everybody gets paid.
that's 100% factual. And
Okay.
and 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 let me tell you something, and I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. And this is nothing negative, right? I'm just talking facts. So in that specific transaction, the way we got under contract because it was such an absurd asking price, right? With transparency, hey, listen, we think it's worth this much. However, the position of our buyers is we always tell them, listen, we are not out to rob anyone or to steal equity from their plate. We're out to get you a fair market offer. And if we can get you a deal, obviously we'll always be open to that, right? But always expect to get something what's worth it. We want the seller to get whatever is coming to them so everyone can be happy, right? That's the intent. So we went into contract, and we had to get creative to be able to go to contract. So we negotiated an appraisal price range that if it doesn't appraise at this point, that we have a window where we would have to negotiate between the contract price and the appraisal price, and we'll just have good faith negotiations. So I go speak to the seller first to make sure he's open to that, so we don't waste time with contracts and addendums and signatures and going back and forth, and then appraisal, inspection, all that other sort of thing. So they were good with that. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to use us as a litmus test to see what it appraised at, and take that appraisal to the marketplace. So when the appraisal came in, and we notify them it didn't appraise. Oh, send it to us. I'm like, no, first let's they wanted a freebie to see what was really happening in the marketplace. And it's just a challenge. It's so much easier just to be freaking straightforward, even if that means, yeah, we can't work with you. Unfortunately, we'll guide you in this direction if you want to sell it on your own. If you know more than a realtor, and some people do, let's be honest, there's some people out there that may have a great grasp on contracts, they may have a great grasp on the real estate for whatever reason. And if you want to do a DIY, man, hats off to you, but it wouldn't be good to be aligned with someone that follows a consultative model, because it just wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work, because at that point, if you get into a relationship with a seller or a buyer that knows, quote unquote, more than the person that's trying to guide them, then you're going to have a lot of conflict, because if they go down a road that you want to prevent them from getting hurt financially, figuratively speaking, that it's going to be a bad thing to do in that transaction, then you've already agreed to have a relationship where they're in charge, or at least are not open to information, to really look at what's happening. And you always have to hire an expert. I don't care what you do. If you're hiring an attorney, hire an attorney. Don't go to LegalZoom. And we covered this topic with our last podcast guest, the estate attorney. What's his first name again?
Trevor Rose.
Trevor, that's right, Trevor. Where he said that, yeah, it's either you deal with a professional or you go to LegalZoom. But when you go to LegalZoom, you're gonna open yourself up to a lot of exposure in that regard. So it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge, and all we can do is do the best we can do, be genuine, be transparent, and keep on educating those, like using a forum like our podcast here, and give free information, and let people understand what the real dynamics of real estate are, and which there are a lot of complexities, like you said. It's not that easy. How do you handle a contract? How do you negotiate it?
It's funny. Somebody asked me for what is it that you guys do?
Yep.
And we use a task manager. And on the task manager, from opening to closing, there are 227 tasks. So we literally know how many tasks there are that we have to do. And that includes every disclosure, that includes appraisal, includes going back and forth, includes just every to the slightest detail. There's 200 and something tasks, and that doesn't account for the time it takes to do each one of those tasks. So the amount of hours that go into a real estate transactions is robust. But what I also tell people is that real estate is not a 7-day a week business. When you're in this business, it's a 24/7 job, because it's in your mind all the time. This is not the kind of job that we get to go home and say, okay, what's at the office is at the office. It doesn't work that way. When you're on in real estate, you're on 24/7, and it's a 24/7. And to be good at it, you better be on 24/7, because that's the only way you can stay connected and ahead of it for the consumer. Otherwise, you can't. But I also want to say, if people are finding any of this information useful, or they like our banter, please hit that subscribe button, smash it, please pass it on, forward it to a friend, or hit a like, or ask a question on the comments. We just want to hear from you. And this is just sort of on the beginning stages of Carlos and I learning how to do this. And the more you engage with us, the more encouraged we are going to be to doing more of these. And we like hanging around with each other anyway. So some things are not that important to us, but a subscribe would be super appreciated. So I just wanted to say that, Carlos. Carlos, I wanted to also bring up two topics that I think I moved my page and I don't have them, but there are two topics that I'm back. I'm back. There's a fumble right there, man. I grabbed it. I wanted to talk about multi-units. I woke up excited. I didn't wake up excited. I became excited when I ran some numbers this morning. And you're familiar with a property that I recently purchased in the Napa Valley. And it's so exciting because, I bought a property that I want to say 7 people competed for this property. Let me not put too many numbers out there, but I'll talk about cap rates. So I bought this property for X amount of dollars. And the competed against 6 or 7 other offers. I think we're a total of 7 offers. It may have been 8 offers. The properties were grossly under rented. Some of the tenants have been on the property for over 20 years, paying less than 0.5% of market rent. So it was interesting that the rents were so low that the owner, who was elderly, and her family, her kids, decided that it was time to sell the property. The property had been in the family for probably close to 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
I buy the property. I have to go through the process, and there are a lot of laws around this right now, especially in California. I have to go through the process of playing Tetris by giving each tenant at least 60 days to move from the unit. And then I made a decision to, let me go back to the multiple offers. I saw enough value in the property that I won by offering $100,000 more than the highest offer. So I wanted to make sure that and by the way, I'm just going to disclose, it was listed by my company. So I was privy to the other offers, and I just wanted to make it a fair purchase. So I went $100,000 higher as is. Other offers had contingencies. Mine had no contingencies. I just bought the property as is. I knew the family knew me, and we had that trust. I was trying to get the other buyers to go higher because I really wanted it to benefit the seller. I will also tell you that at that point, I didn't even know how much I wanted to win, because I knew that displacing 5 families was going to be a tall order, especially 5 families that have been in units for 50% under market rent. And I didn't know what I was going to be walking into. So I thought I might be walking into the cover of the newspaper. I might
Right.
be walking
Yep.
into a real bad situation, Carlos. But then I thought, you know what? I'm not that guy. I don't treat people that way, and I'm going to find a way to be the person that treats these people with so much dignity that it just works. So I ended up writing 100,000 over the top. I ended up winning, and we ended up closing. I want to say 7 or 10 days later, we closed on the properties. At which point, I had to start the painful process of literally sitting with all the tenants and having a meeting with them in the parking lot, and just starting to explain to them what was going to happen, and as the property was going to be changing hands. And I'll fast forward a little bit over it, but what was really interesting was that one person who was elderly, he was going to move back to his home country again. So he moved out in 30 days. I gave everybody a bonus if they could move out in 30 days. I was giving a $2,000 bonus. If they can move out in 60 days, I was giving them a $1,500 bonus. And if they needed help moving, I would pay all their moving costs within a couple 100 miles of here. So I kind of made it to where it was as humane as I could make it, to where they didn't feel so overburdened. And I also made them a promise that I know every property manager in town, if they can find properties, that I would help them get in, because they all did pay their rents on time. So the end result, Carlos, was that out of the 5, I was able to, as the first tenant moved out, I cleaned up the first unit. Then I moved one tenant from that unit to the other unit. I was able to keep 3 of the 5 tenants. 3 of the 5 tenants were able to pay the rent increase to fair market value. And I was legally able to do that with an attorney's help, because I couldn't navigate through that on my own. But I was able to do that one at a time and keep 3 of the tenants at fair market value. Found 2 new tenants for the property. Only one other tenant left who wanted to move to a larger home anyways. And I ended up giving her the $2,000 bonus plus her deposit back. And plus I helped her move. That was the one tenant that I had to do the most work for. By the way, the tenants that moved within the property, I gave each one of them the $2,000 bonus, because they needed that $2,000 bonus for their deposit. Most of them didn't have that saved up. So I gave them a $2,000 bonus. It's real money, it's sitting in my account, but it's part of their deposit in their lease agreement. So all those deposits are set. I thought I did pretty well on that property, Carlos. I bought it for X. I put about, to the dollar, a little bit over $300,000 into that property. I was going to ask you a question. in Florida, do you know what an investor's threshold is for cap rate? What's kind of a reasonable cap rate over there? Do you know what that number is?
It's going to vary from location to location, right?
Same here. Same
So
here.
it's going to vary. So if you're talking about a commercial property in industrial zoning area, it's going to be X. If it's, closer to Wynwood, it all really depends on what it is. But the key there, what you did is the key with any investors that we're working with now that he's out of New York, and we're looking for a multifamily for him now. And then the key there is exactly that's the winning formula is to find that property that's below market rates. That's where the value of the property is that there it's right there. It's not in the asking price. It's you have to look at the rents. So you have to have someone that's in tune with the market, like you knew what the rents were at, and that was the driving force. Because if the rents were beyond market rate and they're asking for that price point, then there's really no deal to be had here. And depending on if you had other goals and objectives for the property, right? It wouldn't be cash positive. Your NOI would be something that's not really should be even. You'll probably cry looking at it. But that's great. But I actually and let me bring you back to your story because only because I have a little more context from our viewers because I was there because we went when I went to Napa. I went the second time. We went and looked at the property, and it was, and you took us on a tour and whatever. But a story that really touched me there. Say the story of the tenant that was
Oh,
that the female and the brother that you did such. I mean, they were so happy. I'm not doing this justice. Just tell us that story. That really touched me and Marty when we met her. She was just so happy. And tell the viewers what happened there.
oh my God, you're really challenging me right now because I want to send, let me see. I'm going to send this to my email and see if I can put this on the screen for you because this is how amazing this relationship has become. So one of our tenants, I had to sit there. She had this energy or this light about her, and I had to sit with her in her living room in one of these units, the unit that she's been living in for over 20 years, that the seller had never done any improvements to these properties. Out of the five tenants, she had painted her own unit. She had put new vinyl flooring. She had put new carpets. She had painted the kitchen cabinets. It looked adorable because with her um, small income, she just likes to live this way. And then she radiated this light. And I'll tell you, I just sat with her and I sat with her and I just said, what do you do for a living? And she cleans houses and this and that. Well, fast forward to now, she's my grandchild's nanny, and she is like the light. I mean, I've never met a person with such light. um, I'm going to try to see if my technological prowess um, will allow me to do this. This is going to be a tall order for me. Um, but let me see if I can do it, Carlos. It would be amazing. So you can see my screen now, right?
Yep.
Okay, so watch this. Watch this, man. If this picture doesn't say everything, nothing will. Let me see if I can get this thing out of the way. Okay, watch this, man. Watch this. This might just blow your mind, and it's not easy to blow your mind. So I'm gonna go into my emails. Watch. Don't be looking at my stuff, Carlos. Look at this photo. Can you see this photo?
Oh, yes, beautiful.
That is Yessie, man. And that is who Yessie is inside and out. And she's been working for the kids now for about 6 months. And she takes care of Hayes. And they are like the best friends in the world, man. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just the most beautiful thing. And I just can't say enough about what came out of that. That's probably the biggest thing that came out of that experience.
yep,
But the second biggest thing is that, or one of the biggest things is that in Napa, a five cap in Napa is good. I know it's not good in Texas, probably not good in some areas of Florida. But you're spot on when you say areas. In Napa, a five cap to invest in Napa with a five cap on a property that's been entirely redone, it's a safe bet. It's a very safe bet with somebody that has exchange money or somebody who just wants to invest in the wine country because the rents are going to continue to go up. And before it's time for us to do our rent increase next year, because here the rents go up every single year. So before we even do our next rent increase, we have literally over doubled what we pay for the property. I mean, over doubled. If you can imagine that at a five cap, I'll give you more details on those numbers when I talk to you later, because I just can't even believe where we are with that property. And now the question is, do we sell it and exchange out of it and do it again? Or do we just grab it and just call it a day, pay the taxes on it, and it was a home run? Um, it's just pretty cool experience, man. I love what you said about the opportunity really is on that rental market, but I think a lot of it has to do with the individual, and if the individual has the ability to be kind and honor people, because that was where the magic was in how I was comporting myself, not in the opportunity. If somebody were to go there and thrash people and not care about their well-being, um, the outcome would have been totally different.
100%. That's what I see. What's funny is that the opportunity with her surfaced after you already started. That was your position from the beginning. So it's not like you found someone like, oh wait, she'll be a great nanny, let's give her a break. It wasn't that at all.
No.
You treated everyone equally and tried to do the right thing. And in life, when you put good things out into the universe, they come right back at you. And here, I'll be honest, I'm sure there's a lot of great people that do that here, but the typical process here for the regular landlord, boom, the notice, rent increase or move, it's over. It's just a black and white transaction, right? So the fact that you took time to do that, and in this world that we live in is great. And I think it should give a lot of people hope. And back to cap rates, there's a big difference between the cap rate that's being offered and what the cap rate really is, right? So that's why these transactions are definitely not DIY transactions when you're talking about
These are
multifamilies.
not DIY transactions.
No,
Absolutely not.
you need to pull rent rolls. You need to look at bank records. Your due diligence is at a whole other level. You know,
Absolutely.
it's at a whole other level. And then I guess the most important things that you'll know if something's priced correctly or not is once you're in tune with the rental market and you're in tune with that specific multifamily that falls within that respective rental market, then you'll know what it is. So if someone's asking an over the top cap rate and you're like, it's really this, let's try to get a deal here, right? And
Oh, and I want to say this: our rents are still low compared to the market. I mean, we're still below market. I just didn't feel like we needed to squeeze that much. We did really well, and we
yeah,
can make it fair. But one thing that I would tell investors out there, it behooves you to be responsible about rent increases. If you don't do that, you're not serving people. If people are renting, you might not agree with this if you're a tenant. Nobody wants a rent increase. But what happens is that when we get complacent, and then one day the property sells and somebody gives us notice, then we have nowhere to go because we haven't adopted our streams of revenue or what we're getting at our job. When rents go up, it only means that it's time to have the conversation. I may need a raise, or it means that it's time to realize that maybe you need to do something else. It just means that, because rents are never going to stop going up. And sometimes they go down. Some of the rents here in Napa have gone down a little bit recently too. So there's been some adjustments in the three. These are apartments that I'm talking about. The 3 2 bedrooms. I was renting 3 2 for my daughter in a neighborhood called Bel Air. We were paying $3,800 a month. We paid that for 2 years for her. It just dropped to $3,500. They had to drop it to
yeah,
35.
yeah.
So apartments are doing better than 3 2s. And it's a thing. It just depends which property you're getting into. But you have to adapt as a consumer. You have to adapt. And this is why Carlos and I always say, you want to prepare toward and work towards the day when you can purchase a house. That's the only time you're ever going to control your destiny. If you don't do that, you're subject to a rent increase, and that's nothing but a matter of time. I don't think you're going to find a lot of landlords like the person that I bought this property from, who's going to hold on and not raise your rent for 20 plus years. Which didn't serve the landlord well, because then all that meant is she couldn't afford to do improvements to the property. The property was falling apart. So there's a reason why you have to raise the rents, is because properties need capital improvements.
And besides besides that obvious factor and the inflation, and everything is more expensive each and every day. So
Yeah.
electricity is more expensive, water's more expensive. Just managing the operations of the property is going to be more expensive. So a lot of things have to happen, and all these things cost more money. So, and the landlords, we always, when you're working in that landlord with the landlord hat on, you're subjected to these increases, and you have to make sure there's still a little bit of profit in there, and then find a way to relieve it, a little bit. So we had a similar story where one of our tenants,
Oh, Carlos, real quick, I want to
yeah,
say, just put something real quick out there. And if you're a slumlord, shame on you. If you're a slumlord you need to get out of the business and let somebody manage the property that knows how to do it, because not everybody knows how to manage real estate. And if you're letting people live in situations that are subpar, in a situation that you wouldn't personally live in, shame on you. Okay, I just wanted to get that out.
Jerry, let's not bash the
The
poor
landlords?
landlords.
Oh man, I'm going for the landlords. You go for the
No,
agents, I go for the landlords,
I like
buddy.
it. No, hey, listen, the great thing is that this is what I love about this, what we have going on here in our Primo channel is that we're going to be honest, and people, there's not going to be any punches held back. Obviously, we're going to be respectful to a certain extent, and we're not going to go crazy here and start naming people and doing things, but it's important for people to see what's really happening. And
We're not going to tackle people.
we're not going to tackle people, nor are we going to kick them out of the game. Nothing like that, We're just
We
going to let
might
you know
call a
that
timeout. Might call a timeout though.
we may call a timeout. We may have to look at the call again, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yes, we had the same thing with a tenant that we had to raise the rent because it's just we had an adjoining property that we have as a short-term rental. And then I was like, we weren't really that far off, but I was trying to think, okay, listen, we don't really pay the cleaning crew for the Airbnb this much. We pay this other person for maintenance this much. I'm like, all right, how about this? How about if you walk over there, walk next door, and you take out the recycling and the garbage when it's garbage day? Are you willing to do that? And then I won't raise the rent. She goes, absolutely. I'm like, okay, deal. So you have to find a little workaround, you know what I'm saying? So, not that that really saved us this huge financial windfall and like, oh my God, look, but it felt good, I'm like, absolutely.
Oh,
She's been
oh.
the rent has never been late. She's been fantastic. And whenever we have short-term renters there, she's like an amazing ambassador. She'll walk over next door, she'll walk all the way over to the property. Hey, just to let you know, there's a great restaurant here, or blah, blah. So she's like, that kind of person, so how can you not treat someone like that reciprocates and treats you well in the same fashion. And again, like I told you before, I like to sleep well at night, so it
Hey,
is what it
Carlos,
is.
have you ever heard of a pre-party party?
Of a pre-party party? Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard of that. I've heard
You've
of
heard of
that.
that term.
Yeah.
So most people won't know what a pre-party party is, and I'm not going to tell anybody. But you and I are never going to have a pre-party party again before we have a podcast. We've gone way over on time. That's
However, it's only 4:39.
okay. When did we start?
I think we're close to the, but not way
Close to
over.
the hour, or a little bit
We're
over.
we were trying to go for 10 minutes. We really went over that. No.
Yeah.
Hey, but let me tell you, we forgot.
This is like I think at least I love this episode. I don't know about them, but I've enjoyed.
I'm a fan. I'm gonna like and subscribe for sure.
It's a good episode, Carlos. At least
Hey,
between my ears.
you know what's exciting? What's exciting is that we have two fantastic guests coming up that we just locked in this week, right? So we're keeping it to the family theme this month. It
Wow,
just worked out that way. So
nice.
next
You were
next
able to secure that?
I went through the agents, I went through the whole 9 yards. I texted you.
Nice.
You didn't see the text?
No, I didn't.
Hello?
I try not to look at text while I'm talking to you.
Not now, Jerry, 2 days
I
ago.
didn't see that text. I didn't know you secured that.
Yeah, look at the text with Itty. You'll see it in there. It says, hey, good
Twice with it.
news. Yeah.
Oh wow, I did not see that. Maybe I don't pay
So
attention to the text with
yeah,
it.
we're gonna need to hire someone to look at your text.
Yeesh.
So next Friday we're gonna have Yvette Rodriguez, which is an attorney. She's a real estate attorney
Woo!
for 20 plus years. She also happens to be a magistrate in the Property Appraisers Value Adjustment Board. So I think we're gonna get a lot of great insight from her and her experiences and see what she has to offer. And she's also our cousin, which is great.
Uh,
And then not the week after, but the week after that, I think on the 26th, we're gonna have Michelle Rodriguez Tapanez join us, and she's the owner of a public relations and media company that helps businesses get out there. And she's doing some amazing work, and she's been a lifelong entrepreneur. One of these people that always land on their feet. That is just always been super impressed by her, and so she's really cut from the same entrepreneurial
I'm
cloth.
glad you're only bringing one at a time, because it would take two of us to make one of them. So I'm so glad. I mean, these are powerhouses. So
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're gonna
awesome.
have her on, and it's gonna be exciting. She's gonna give us a lot of local and perspective, and she's also gonna give us a lot of business perspective as well, which is great because fellow entrepreneurs, I always like to see what's on their mind, what they've gone through, what the challenges, their successes, what their insights are. Because we said something this week that was also very poignant, is that being an entrepreneur is a very lonely journey. You have to make some very lonely decisions. And when things are not going well, you're usually by yourself trying to navigate that. When things are going well, you have 500 people hanging out to your coattails and everything's good. But when you have to make those harsh decisions, which if you have to restructure, if you have to make some decisions that affect human beings, it's a challenge, and then in this unpredictable market that we're in, there's no guarantees, what's going to happen in our market, in real estate with the commissions. Are they going to go away? Are they not going to go away? So it's always a toss up as to what's really going to happen at the end of the road. And as entrepreneurs, you have to just have the common thread with those that succeed right here, the ones that never give up. So,
I look forward to the challenges. I really
yeah,
look forward
yeah,
to the challenges, man. I think it's what keeps us going. It's what keeps us strong. It's just troubleshooting things and working through them, man. I always say, walking into the fire. You gotta walk in, don't walk away. You know what you did when you were in the force? You walked into the wreck. You didn't go the other way. Hey,
that's it.
you weren't that police officer. You're not that guy.
No, I'm not telling you. I didn't often think 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, going into a house with an open door, checking an alarm, and you're walking by yourself in the house, and you're thinking, "What the f am I doing here?"
Yeah,
But you're already there, right?
yeah,
And
you're already
and
there.
we're already there. And I think entrepreneurship is such a beautiful journey, and always what motivates people and how they do things, how they handle business, especially you. I just love it. It inspires me, and it's great, and it's great to put it out there. You know what I mean? And for people to maybe take a little tidbit of whatever episode we have, and if they're a landlord, maybe take a little tidbit of what we shared with them today. If they're thinking to jump in the real estate market, maybe think about a couple of things that we shared with them, so they could make an educated decision and go from there. And hey, listen, you don't have to work with either one of our companies, but if you're in real estate and you don't know anything about real estate and you want to get a professional in your local market, it could be in my market, it could be in Jerry's market, but just get someone to guide you, and that maybe all the transparency we're offering you is going to arm you to be a little more savvy as to who you should be interviewing and who's going to be a good fit for you. And
Carlos, quit selling. So you know what I just,
am I selling? Am I selling?
Jesus, dude, you are just a ninja
My
of selling.
God, I don't know.
ABC, always be closing.
My goodness.
I'll tell you what. You know what? I just want to talk about me. Can we talk about me?
Yeah.
Another cool thing happened. There's been a lot of cool things. It's been a couple of kind of funky. Every time good things happen, there's always the opposite side of the same coin, right? There's
Yeah.
always so we've had a little bit of everything this week. But another cool thing that happened is, remember I told you that one of the Airbnbs we had, I wanted to set it up as a place where people that are trying to get healthy, lose weight, things like that, can come and reset. I have my first guest.
No
And
way.
dude, he's a great friend of mine. He is the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. He is another one of my becoming rapidly one of my mentors at 30 something years old. I think he's 35 to 37. Super, super smart person. And I'm just so grateful to have him as a friend. He's been over to my house. We've done a lot of things together, but now he wants to take this journey on. And when I told him what I was doing, he said, sign me up. So what I thought, you know how we are when we're struggling with food and things like that, and when we want to start a new nutritional program, you know how we kind of, okay, we'll do it. I thought, maybe this is where it is.
Yeah.
I send them the Airbnb link so he can. I said, hey, whenever you're ready, these days that you mentioned you want to come, I'll send it to you, dude. It was like 12 seconds later he had booked it for the 3 days to do the 3 days reset. So what I'm going to do for the 3 days, I'm going to set up the whole place with all the clean food. I'm just going to make the environment conducive. Like, you've been to my house and you know what my environment's like for me to have lost the 80 pounds that I've lost. So I'm going to make the environment super conducive in the Napa Valley for him to just hang around this little cottage that's all set up for him to heal himself. And I'm going to spend some time with him in the process, teaching him how to use these appliances and these things that'll help him take his nutrition to the next level. So I'm gonna record a lot of that. By recording, I mean log that model, because I want to see if that model has legs. If people, instead of coming to the Napa Valley to drink and eat, would come to heal and experience. And heal, I mean heal their gut microbiome and all that, and then go for hikes instead of go to wineries. Do different things. And I'm going to test that, Carlos. It's really burning a hole in my entrepreneurial pocket. And I have everything set up in place. The place is there. It's beautifully furnished. It's got, Viking range, all this and that. I can do some little classes for him. I want to report in the next, he's going to book in February 3rd. I want to tell you a little bit about it afterwards and tell you more as to how that goes.
Is that the one, the first one we stayed at when we were there earlier this
Yep,
year?
yep,
Yeah.
that's the one.
Oh, I love that
That's the one.
place.
That's the one. But we have the guest house behind that one.
Yes, yes.
That was because the guest house is smaller. If it were to get busy, I think that one doesn't get booked as much. The front one gets booked a lot.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But I want to make it my goal is to make it as affordable as possible. I want as many people to be able to get that getaway, not because I want it to cost them less than going to a hotel. I want it for sure to cost less than going to a hotel. You come to the Napa Valley to get healthy, not to necessarily go into the reduction sauces and everything that tastes delicious. But then people leave the Napa Valley usually, 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds. If you're me, it's 10 to 20 pounds heavier because this place that I live in is conducive to just a lot of calories, man. So I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped that
That's exciting, but I will tell you that I've been obviously we went to Napa twice last year, and I went to. Did we go to wineries both times? No, just the first time. The second time we visited.
yeah, the last time you were on.
No, 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 and it was good. It's something to do once, but
Yeah.
man, from the parking lot to the winery building is usually a hell of a hike. So just FYI. So
Yeah.
so we say we want them to hike, but not at the winery parking lot, even though that's considered a hike, right? So let's
We
clarify.
hiked the Napa Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something, there's something in the air over there. There's something, some environmental ingredient. We went last time, we rented a beautiful convertible. We went to Sonoma. We saw you often, which was the bonus of the trip, obviously. And then we were there for your daughter's wedding. And which to this day I don't stop speaking about it. I'm like, I ask people, oh, how was Napa? I'm like, great, we went to a wedding. Oh, you went to a wedding? Yeah. I go, listen, I'm gonna describe the wedding to you. Have you ever seen the Hallmark Channel? Oh yeah. It was a wedding as though it was produced on the Hallmark Channel. It was the most, and to clarify, it wasn't like something over the top, like overindulgent that you would think like, oh
It was
wow,
simple. It was
but
simple.
it was simple but effective, gorgeous. The ceremony in the middle of the vineyard there, and just the way that the attention to detail that you guys took, and it was just, anyways, it was the highlight of the trip. Obviously, the point of the
Well,
trip.
if you're anything like me, you would take all the credit for that. I get all the credit for.
Yeah, Susan, you can hit him if you're there. You can hit him
Yeah,
after we get off after
you
we get off.
will. You will.
But so it's great. There's something happening over there, and it's great that you're going to use that environmental synergy of feeling, that feel good feeling that everyone gets, and it's beyond the vacation feel good. I'm not talking about the one where you go out of town and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I feel good, I'm out of town. No, there's something different in Napa. It's the air, and the location is the reason the grapes are there, right? That's the big secret is the altitude, the location of that specific valley, the ground. So
Yeah.
there's something there where you just breathe in the air and you feel so good. So I think that's going to be a great thing. And listen, everything you touch turns to gold.
We're gonna
And
try it, man. We try a lot of things.
yeah,
Not that they don't all work,
but
but
you have to try it. But you have to try whatever.
we do try a lot of things. I want to talk to Michelle about that too. I want to get into that topic with Michelle, who's, as you said, super entrepreneurial. She's not afraid to try things, and that's part of this journey is trying things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're good. I think we concluded an episode. See, guys, we have nothing scripted. We just at the end we're like, I think we're done for today. Do you think we're done, Jerry?
I'm out. I'm out, man. I'm done. I'm so good. I'm ready
Yeah,
for.
yeah, same, same. I loved it. I loved everything we brought here. Listen to me. I'm probably gonna subscribe this time and like the show. All right.
I love you. Just get your kids to subscribe.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Bye.
Actually, they're all.